Kansas City Sports Update Studios. Welcome to Kingdom Radio, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs. Brought to you by Arrowhead Update. Join Kris and Richard on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Player FM, CastBox, and all third-party applications. Check us out on Facebook platforms such as Kansas City Sports Update and Arrowhead Update. And if you cannot find us there, Google or search Kingdom Radio and Kansas City Chiefs, and you will find us. Welcome to the Kingdom.
How are we doing, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome to KC Kingdom Radio. I am your host, Richard Smith, and with me, as always, my co-host, Kris-Chavez. And tonight we're going to talk about the doctor opting out of his contract for 2020 to go fight the COVID battle. Also, the Chiefs wasted no time in signing his replacement. The Mailbag premieres tonight. That is our new segment where we interact with fans and let them ask a question, to Kris and I here at KC Kingdom Radio. And, we will give our best analysis, and we look forward to that. We are live tonight. We are live. Also, we are going to take a look at the Chiefs rookies. They signed the entire rookie class to their rookie deals, and Kris and I are going to break down each one of those players this evening. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Kris, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic, getting excited, and the smell of training camp is in the air.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And, the Chiefs are going to go into training camp, minus one of my favorite players and a beloved player in Chiefs Kingdom. Duvernay Tardif decided to opt out of his contract like we were talking and go fight the COVID battle. And this is a quote from him. He said, "I must follow my convictions and do what I believe is right for me personally. Being at the front line during this offseason has given me a different perspective on this pandemic and the stress it puts on individuals and our healthcare system. I cannot allow myself to potentially transmit the virus in our communities simply to play the sport that I love. If I am to take risks, I will do it caring for patients." So, Kris, tell me a little bit about what you think of this. This was a shocker. But in the same respect, out of all players in the NFL, you would think that LDT would be the first person to opt out with this COVID situation.
Yeah, it's very much like back in the 40s when players went off to World War II. They left the game that they loved, primarily the one that comes to mind most in the front of my mind is baseball. Well, players left baseball behind and they went off to go fight a war. And for Tardif, he very much feels as if he's doing something similar, in which he's going off and he's going to be on the front lines against COVID. And in his community, he's going to be doing a lot of good in fighting the battle and keeping people alive. And there's no way, shape, or form that anybody should be saying anything bad about his choice to step up and be active in this battle.
And it's the right time for him to step away, and do, what his soul is pulling him to do. Although it is a huge hit for the Chiefs' offensive line, I mean, what a testament to the integrity this man has. And, I guess we couldn't be prouder to call him a Kansas City Chief. And look, this very well could be temporary, 1 year off. And, he comes back next season. We'll have to wait and see what happens with this pandemic. But, look, hats off, to Tardif. That is a huge, in my mind, accomplishment. You leave the game of football and you leave millions of dollars on the table, to go care for patients and, do what you went to college for. And so, like I said, huge hats off to him. The Chiefs have really already turned the corner, with this. I feel like that this situation was, something that the Kansas City Chiefs knew about, and it wasn't announced until the Chiefs had already found the replacement for the doctor. And so, Kris, the Chiefs went out and signed Kelechi Osemele to a 1-year deal. 2-time Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro, and he also started right tackle for the Ravens in Super Bowl 47. Break down what this means to Kansas City, and is this, is Assembly a player that can really fill the shoes of the doctor?
So Assembly is just a few years removed from a Pro Bowl appearance. He was one of the players of the Raiders offensive line, who really, back when the offensive line was actually good in Oakland. And he's a big body, extremely strong guard, very athletic. And this guy this is no knock against Tardif when I say this, he's going to be an upgrade on the interior line. He's going to really bring some experience, some strength, and attitude. And unfortunately, he just had a rough go in New York with the Jets. I believe he played 3 games, and in the 3rd game, he ended up getting hurt. And against the team's wishes, he ended up electing for surgery, and they shut him down for the rest of the year and then released him as well, which is why he's available. But you look at his other 2 stops with Baltimore and Oakland, and he's been a stout player on the offensive line for both of those teams. And I think that we really found another gem on the dust heap, as Brett Veach is becoming very accustomed to doing. And, as soon as the news broke that we got him, I got extremely excited because it's going to really help out our offensive line, keeping Patrick-Mahomes safe.
Yes, and as soon as the news broke about LDT, my heart sank a little bit, just because this is a scenario where Patrick Mahomes was just signed to that 10-year extension, and of all of the position players on the Kansas City Chiefs, this is one of the most valuable positions on the team to protecting Patrick Mahomes. So it was a shock, but I'm glad that the Chiefs had something in line and took care of it, and didn't make Chiefs Kingdom hold their breath any longer than they had to. So with that,
that really was a move on their part. I kind of feel that if we weren't able to get him, we would have had some solid depth behind him to go into the regular season with Martinez Rankin or Mike Rimmers at guard. But bringing him in has just been a huge step up for the offensive line.
Yes, I'm excited to see what happens, especially, bringing in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which we're going to touch base on here in just a little bit. But yeah, this is a situation where obviously the Chiefs knew what was going on. They took care of the problem, and here we are, a day outside of the doctor, and his replacement is already intact, and the Chiefs are ready to go. And look, that's a testament to Brett Veach again. Kris and I say it over and over and over again. Brett Veach is the man, and he's the one who's pulling the trigger on all these things. So it's exciting for Chiefs Kingdom, and we couldn't be more proud of Tardif. So we're going to move on here. Look, this mailbag segment, I'm excited about it. It's coming up here at the end of the show. I'm excited to give some analysis to Chiefs Kingdom. And Kris, this is new for us here. I mean, typically we do our show and our segments, and Kris and I give our analysis. But Kris, aren't you excited to really converse with Chiefs Kingdom here a little bit and hear some questions and really give some feedback, because this is what it's all about. It is about the fans.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting to see what our fans, what the fans, where their heads are at, what they want to know about, and to be able to give them a live breakdown and analysis of what they're asking us for. I'm really excited for this, and hopefully we get some more moving forward as well.
Hey, it's gonna be interesting, and I really like the questions that were asked tonight, and I can't wait to get to that. But first, we're gonna touch base on the Chiefs rookies, because the Kansas City Chiefs signed all 6 of the rookies to their rookie deals, and now the ink is on paper. There's no turning back, and it's time to break down some of these key assets the Chiefs added to the team here within the draft. And, that's actually will wrap into one of the questions that we're going to be asked here on the mailbag segment tonight, and I can't wait to get to that. But Kris, let's talk 1 through 6 here. Obviously, first round shocker, Kansas City Chiefs took LSU running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the 32nd overall pick. So tell us what that means to the Chiefs. What is Clyde Edwards-Helaire bring to the dynamic of the Chiefs offense?
He's going to be a bowling ball type of running back. He's very shifty in space. Has great balance, very much like Kareem Hunt had. And he's also going to be a great receiver out of the backfield. He's, again, kind of like Hunt, and he is going to be a weapon to score from anywhere on the field. He was clocked at 4.6 in the 40, so he doesn't necessarily have breakaway speed, but he plays so much faster than that. And I think anybody who watched him play for LSU last year is aware of just how big of a playmaker he is. He came he landed in the right team because based on draft analysis, there quote unquote were better running backs in the draft, but each of them had or would have been bad fits for the Chiefs. I believe it was Taylor out of Wisconsin, and he was the leading rusher last year, but he has a fumble concern. Helaire is going to be the best back for us moving forward for a long time. And he's also the only player in SEC history to rush for over 1,000 yards and catch 55 passes in a single season. If you look at the tremendous running backs that have come out of the SEC over the years and years, no other running back has ever done that. That's impressive, and he's on the Chiefs roster.
This is an impressive situation for Kansas City, and this is a very, very shifty, elusive running back. His cuts are monstrous. It's almost like watching Tyreek Hill in the backfield. He just has this shiftiness about him that you can't teach. He's really like what was that running back for Philadelphia? Darren Sproles. He reminds me of Darren Sproles a lot, but quicker and shiftier, if you can even imagine that scenario. He's a patient running back. He waits for his holes, but as soon as he sees it, he hits it, and he'll turn your knees inside out. Also, like you said, Kris, very, very great pass catcher out of the backfield. This is going to be another knockout punch for Kansas City. This is huge, and we'll get into Clyde Edwards-Helaire here a little bit later in the mailbag, and we'll talk about this a little more, but this is a big deal for Kansas City, and Chiefs Kingdom will probably see this midway through the season. Kris, let's go on to our second overall pick here, the 63rd pick in the draft, Mississippi State linebacker Willie Gay Jr. Outside of the excitement about, Helaire, I personally am extremely excited about Willie Gay Jr. and what he brings to the Chiefs roster, especially with all of the chemistry on the defensive side of the ball and the leadership. He's a very, very smart player, fast, great hands, good against the run, good against the pass. This really is a solid linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Kris, go into a little bit more depth here about Willie Gay Jr. and tell Chiefs Kingdom what this, we're working with here with Willie Gay.
So Willie Gay is a heavier linebacker at 245 pounds, but he ran the 40-yard dash in 4.46 seconds, and he ran it faster than some guys who are 30 or 40 pounds lighter than he is. That's just how dangerous he's going to be for our defense, with that speed and being able to get into the backfield, shut down the the sideline, and he's just going to bring a presence to the defense. And like you said, he's a great tackler, great hitter, brings an energy. But some analysts have questioned his ability to anticipate and react in a timely fashion in the game. So there's a little bit of question of his mental aspect, but nobody questions his physical aspect. And the mental aspect, that can be taught.
Yes.
And with him coming in without the preseason games to get acclimated to the NFL speed, we're going to have some growing pains with this guy. But it absolutely trust that Matt House and Spags are going to be working with him to get him up to speed. And, by the end of the season, he's going to be a huge piece to our defense. But I also think that for a long time coming, and he's going to be a pivotal piece to our defense as long as he's in the Chiefs uniform.
And, he's really in great hands with Matt House and Steve Spagnuolo. So, yes, where he lacks can be taught, like you had stated. And I think this is a perfect scenario for him. And you'd mentioned there will be growing pains, and that will happen. But I look for him to, by the season's end, he's going to be a staple in the Chiefs' defense. I can't wait to see him, at his best. Okay, so let's move on to our third pick, the 96th overall pick, TCU offensive tackle Lucas Niang. Kris, break down this scenario for us, because the Chiefs, you can't have enough depth on the offensive line. But I'd really like you to let Chiefs Kingdom know, is this, a player that is going to need a couple of years, to be at his best? Is he somebody who can step in right away, or they have to mold Lucas Niang into what they want him?
Well, the question that you're asking is going to really depend on what position they see him at long term. Right now, the plan is for him to potentially take a look at playing guard this year. I think primarily due to the fact that in his senior year, he ended up having hip surgery. And so I don't say he's recovering from that, but it might still be a little tender, and so they're still working with that a little bit. But in the long term, for his size and his athleticism, they're looking at him to play tackle and potentially be a Fisher or Schwartz's replacement. And I think that ultimately having him at tackle is going to be the best bet. In his career at TCU, at over 1,000 snaps, I believe, and I could be wrong here, he only gave up 2 or 3 quarterback pressures and no sacks.
That's incredible. That is incredible. So you look, that tells you, what the future could very well look like for the Chiefs' offensive line. And again, Brett Veach bringing a guy in who's seasoned, and I think that's a huge aspect in an offensive line, is to be a seasoned offensive lineman who really offensive tackle is going against the grain. But it's just, this is Brett Veach at his finest, and I look forward to this. I look forward to, like I said, the future of the Chiefs' offensive line. Let's move on to the fourth pick here. Louisiana Tech defensive back L'Jarius Sneed. The Chiefs picked him with the 138th overall pick, and this is one that excites me just a bit. And this might be the steal of the draft, in my opinion. But Kris, let's talk about L'Jarius Sneed here for a few.
Okay, so at first glance, a lot of people think that we drafted a safety here, but he spent his senior year playing safety. His first 3 years, he played cornerback. And this guy has just been an absolute leader, and brings that versatility that they're looking for in that secondary. With his ability to play cornerback and safety, he's going to be able to kind of fill that Kendall Fuller mold. and be that versatile back that's going to kind of hide the coverage that the secondary is bringing.
So another smart player coming into the system, and realistically, and this is, again, we'll touch base on this later and mailbag. I'm very excited about L'Jarius Sneed, and we'll see what happens with him. Kris, let's move on to the 5th overall pick, Michigan defensive end Michael Dana. That's the 177th overall pick in the draft. What does that mean for Kansas City? And does this seem like a depth move, or where does Michael Dana fit into the mold for Kansas City?
Dana definitely seems like he's going to be a project. He started out his collegiate career at Central Michigan, transferred over to Michigan, and never really stood out while he was playing for Michigan. And then you look at the depth ahead of him on the depth chart, and he's got a ways to go. But he's a very, very relentless, hard worker. And I think that that's something that really excites the coaching staff, and it's someone that they want to work with. They could potentially either stash him on the active roster or on the practice squad and give him a year to develop, and then next year he could really make an impact on the defensive line.
And you cannot ever have enough defensive linemen. I'll just put it that way. The offensive line, defensive line, the depth is great. You got to have it. Even with Okafor coming back and, number 55 on the other end, it's going to be hard to outplay either of those players. Frank Clark is, the anchor. Then Chris Jones there in the middle of the defensive line is looking great, but it's nice to, see us pick up some depth there. And really with Okafor being shaky as well, he missed just about all of last season, and he's coming back for another year. We'll have to see what happens there. Let's move on to the last pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, the 6th overall pick. Tulane defensive back, Thacarius Bo-Pete Keys. He was the 237th overall pick in the draft. Kris, let's talk about Bo-Pete here for a few. What does he bring to the table, and was this a steal as well with the 237th overall pick?
So he's definitely going to bring some size. His deep speed is going to be an issue. He doesn't quite play to his 40 time, although he is rather fast. I think it's going to be something that is going to be something that can be taught and he can be worked out of. This is going to be a player that has huge upside. I had very little risk in taking him and potentially taking a look at him in the short term as maybe a 4th or 5th on the depth chart, or with potential to play on the outside in the long run here in the next couple of years.
Hey, look, and so from breaking down 1 through 6, all the Chiefs draft picks, if you could give the Kansas City Chiefs an overall grade as to the draft, what would you give the Chiefs, especially knowing the depth chart and exactly where the Chiefs stand with the roster?
It'd either be a very strong A- or B+. My only question mark throughout the entire year draft for the Chiefs was the pick of Dana. I think that they could have potentially had him later. They could have traded back and gotten another secondary piece. But aside from that, it was a very, very strong draft. And they got a couple of really significant pieces both for this year and the long run as well.
I'm with you on that one. A solid A- and my books covered a lot of ground. I'm with you. There are some other areas that I think all of us in Chiefs Kingdom would have liked to see addressed. But this is the draft. If a player doesn't fall where you want him to, chances of you getting him are slim to none. So the Chiefs had to take what they can get there in the back end of the draft. But I think they did a really good job of managing their picks. So, look, that is the Chiefs rookie breakdown. It's time. It's time, Chiefs Kingdom. It's time for the mailbag segment. I've been excited about this all week, it's been fun to watch these questions pile in, and we've picked 3 this evening. We picked 3 questions that we are going to answer. And Kris, are you ready to do this? You ready for the mailbag segment?
I'm excited. Let's do it.
All right. Our first question comes from Corey Jones. These are all from Kansas City, Missouri, mind you. Corey asks, when looking at the Chiefs' schedule, I don't really see many difficult games. KC beat the Saints and the Ravens the last couple of meetings respectfully. Do the Chiefs have a legitimate shot at 19-0 for the 2020 NFL season? Kris, I'm going to let you take off.
Okay, so if you look back at one of our other podcasts where we actually went through the entire season, and I had the Chiefs going undefeated in the season. There's definitely going to be a couple games that are going to be tough, but looking down the second half of the season, you're playing, like, at the end of November, you're playing in Tampa Bay, in Miami, at New Orleans. Those are going to be warm weather games in December. Or how is that not going to be to the Chiefs' benefit?
Absolutely.
We have to bring Atlanta to KC December 27th. They have to play it in the cold, potentially snow. Yes, please. Sign me up. And then the only other major question mark that I have here is the Ravens. But I want to make this point. I mean, the 2 times in the last 2 seasons that we've beaten the Ravens, and it was with a average to bad defense that the Chiefs had.
Yes.
And in each scenario, the Chiefs' defense got better as the season went on. And our bad defenses helped to beat the Ravens. We're coming in with almost all of our starters returning, and they were looking fantastic at the second half of last year. I'm not worried about the Ravens, and no team really, in my mind, aside from injuries, on paper can beat us this season.
Hey, and I'm with you on that one, Kris. I will say this, there's no such thing as an easy NFL season. Even if the schedule looks easy, there's always a team on that schedule that's going to surprise you and is going to come out on fire. Obviously, like you said, the Ravens. I'm still not even counting the Patriots out. We have the Patriots this season. The Buccaneers. You said Atlanta, New Orleans. Plus the divisional games. I really, this season, Kansas City controls their own destiny. This can very well be an undefeated season if everything works out perfect for Kansas City. Like you said, barring injury, and that's a huge thing. The Chiefs, even their Super Bowl season went through injury after injury after injury. And if we can cut those injuries down, this very well could be an undefeated season. Although, me personally, I'm going to say that I think the Chiefs will lose one game. Which one that is, I'm not quite sure. The Saints really, that's the one. Kris, I agree with you. Going there later in the season, during the winter and, playing basically, an indoor game, that is going to help the Chiefs. But that game still worries me. That's the only one that you and I really had a question mark on when we were breaking down the season schedule. So my confidence is there. And I will say, if the Chiefs are undefeated and they beat the Saints, the rest of the season is theirs. So Corey Jones, I would have to say that is, that's our answer. Kris says very possibly can go undefeated. I think that the Chiefs can as well, but I do think that they are going to fall to Drew Brees and the Saints. So we're going to move on to our next question. Zach Norton. Hey, this one's from Zach Norton. Not including our first round pick, what rookie do you think we will see the most this year? Kris, I'm going to let you take off on that question. Very interesting. I like that question, and let's send him in a direction here. Go ahead, Kris.
I'm going to go back in. I'm going to amend the question. I'm going to include Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this question, but because I don't think he's going to be the guy that we're going to see the most of this year. I think we're going to see Willie Gay Jr.
Yes.
The entire season as a starter.
Yes.
And I think that his impact on the game is going to be seen earlier and more often than Edwards-Helaire. Unfortunately, Edwards-Helaire, he's going to be one of 5 targets in the offense, whereas on the defense with Gay's speed, he's going to be able to cover 2/3 of the field, as well as have the ability to get into the backfield. He's going to be the guy that I'm going to be expecting to see the most of this year.
And look, again, Zach, I hate to do this, but I'm with Kris on this one. I want to give a different analysis, but Kris is right. And here's the thing, is everyone knows what to expect out of Edwards-Helaire. It's no secret that he's going to be a monster in the Chiefs' offense. The key weapon, the secret weapon, is going to be Willie Gay Jr. Just like Kris mentioned, this guy is going to be all over the field. He's going to, he's going to cover sidelines. This is the type of player that can turn into a superstar in the right situation, and this season could very, very well break open, this huge door for the linebacking core with a player like him. As long as the structure is there, which Matt House and company, Spags, everybody that I do not doubt anything. I do not doubt our coaching staff. This man is going to be high-flying, high-performing. Like Kris said, he's a big-body guy with 4.4 40 speed. That comes flying across the line. That's like a train hitting you. Well, I think you're going to see some huge things out of Willie Gay Jr. this year, and he's going to light up the defense for Kansas City. I'm excited about him. So my answer is with you, Kris. Willie Gay Jr., that's going to be our rock. That's going to be our staple, and I'm excited to see what happens. Our last question tonight for the mailbag segment, and this is from Operation Northwoods. This is a Twitter account here. I'm not really sure who controls that, but this question is from Operation Northwoods. How many weeks into the season before Clyde Edwards-Helaire takes over Williams' spot? Or does CEH get used more as a pass catcher and Williams a runner? Kris, take off. What is your answer here for Operation Northwoods?
If we see Edwards-Helaire taking over primary carries early in the season, is probably due to an injury to Damian Williams, and that would have me concerned. I think that we see, if everyone's healthy, I think that we see more Edwards-Helaire in the second half of the season, and the first half of the season, he's going to be more of a pass catcher. In the second half of the season, I think they'll transition to give him more carries and see how he does with them. And as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, he's going to end up getting that ball and the rock and say, take it to the end zone. And as we all know, he's going to be able to do that. But he's got to be able to prove himself, and that's going to happen over time. It'll probably be, if I had to say a specific week, I think probably week 9, week 10.
And that's when you see Helaire taking over. And here's the thing, is this is a scenario where he doesn't need to be rushed into the system because Kansas City is already a lethal threat. And the respect that Chiefs Kingdom has for Williams, I think it's only proper to split the carries this season and really integrate Edwards-Helaire into Andy Reid's system. But it was also on record that Helaire said that Andy Reid's playbook is the easiest one that he has ever had to learn. So I love that he is confident in that nature, and he's smart, and he's got the playbook down already. But I think it's one of those things where let's preserve this young man's body, because this is going to be the key asset to taking pressure off of Patrick-Mahomes and keeping him on his feet for the next decade. So it's really a balance. I look at this whole thing with Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a balanced attack, and I think that it's going to come a little bit sooner because Helaire is going to have that one huge play that's going to turn everyone's head, and it wouldn't make sense not to put him back in the game after that. And me personally, I think it's going to come a lot sooner in the season. I'm saying week 4, week 5, he can really have a breakout game that will turn the NFL's head, and then the wheels are just going to be turning from them, because he is part of this. He's a gear in this huge system, and it's perfect, but it needs to be done right. So I say week 4, week 5, Clyde's going to take over, and we're going to see a whole nother monster here in Kansas City, and that's something to be excited about, because this guy's got some flash to him. I really don't like making comparisons to great running backs, especially before they step on the field. But I will say, I've seen some moves out of this kid that remind me of Barry Sanders, and it's nasty. He's nasty. I cannot wait to see that product on the field for the Kansas City Chiefs. Kris, is there anything you'd like to add to the mailbag segment before we close the box tonight?
I've got one for you.
Okay.
Okay, so because this is training camp time, this one actually came from my uncle a couple months back, and he wanted me to ask you this question. So in the Chiefs' inaugural season, back when they were the Dallas Texans,
yes,
what was the location of their first training camp?
Holy cow. What was their location in the first training camp? Gosh. That's a really good question. And to be honest with you, all I have is an educated guess. I want to say Arlington, Texas. I don't know why I say Arlington, but I feel like it's Arlington, Texas, or the Cotton Bowl, something like that. I can't pinpoint it, and maybe I have. I don't know. But Kris, what is it? Because he's got me stumped. But I feel like that I was a decent guess for the question that was put on my shoulders here.
It was a good guess. You're a little bit too far east. So their first training camp was actually held in Roswell, New Mexico.
Really?
At the New Mexico Military Institute. Out here we call it, or refer to it as NIMI. That was the location of their very first one.
Hey, you have me stumped, and that is awesome. I don't think that I would have ever in a million years got that right. I mean, that's really digging deep there in the archives. I'm impressed with that question. Had me stumped completely. I don't even know what to say to it. So, to your uncle, great question. You had me stumped, and I learned something today. So, Kris, is there anything else you want to add to the mailbag before we tie her up and call her a night?
No, just wear your mask, you guys. We got to keep the Chiefs safe. Wear your mask, keep them safe, keep them healthy. We need to see some football.
We do need to see some football, and stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll be on here and we'll be talking about what's going to happen with this Chiefs season and fans in the stands and how all that is going to go down. Stay tuned, KC Kingdom Radio. And look us up, kckingdomradio.com. Go to KC Kingdom Radio Facebook page. Check out some of our live shows that we have done in venues all over Kansas City. And subscribe, follow us. Go to that Facebook page and leave a review for us. We'd really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed the mailbag segment. I know Kris and I did. We look forward to doing that every week from here on out. Kris, thank you for coming on as always. I am your host, Richard Smith. Thank you for tuning in to KC Kingdom Radio. You have a great evening, Kansas City.
Thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Radio, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Chiefs.